My name is Daniel Carter, and for most of my life, I believed hard work could fix anything. If a roof leaked, I repaired it. If bills piled up, I worked overtime. If my marriage started hurting, I convinced myself love would carry us through. I spent 10 years building a future with my wife, Vanessa. Every cracked wall inside our house held memories of us. I painted the kitchen myself after my father died. I rebuilt the back porch one summer while Vanessa sat outside drinking lemonade and laughing at how terrible I was with measurements. Back then, she used to smile at me like I mattered. That house was the last thing my father left behind before cancer took him. He worked 30 years at a steel plant just to keep it. Every nail, every floorboard, every sacrifice lived inside those walls. And somehow, I still lost it. Daniel, are you even listening to me? Vanessa's voice snapped me out of my thoughts one evening as I stood in the kitchen holding a grocery bag. I heard you, I said quietly. No, you didn't. She leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone. Her voice had changed over the past year. It always sounded annoyed now, like talking to me was a burden. You said the Hendersons bought a beach house, I replied. You already told me. And what did you say? I set the groceries down carefully. I said good for them. She laughed sharply. That's exactly the problem with you. I frowned. What problem? You're too comfortable being average. The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. I tried smiling anyway. Not everybody cares about showing off. It's not showing off to want more out of life. We have a home. We have savings. We have your dead father's house, she snapped. That's different. Silence filled the kitchen. Vanessa looked away first, but the damage was already done. I swallowed hard. You know what this house means to me. That's the issue, Daniel. You're emotionally attached to everything. I stared at her. I'm your husband. Isn't that supposed to matter? She sighed dramatically. See? That right there. You always turn everything emotional. I wanted to argue, but I was exhausted. The fights had become constant. Every conversation somehow turned into proof that I wasn't enough. Too soft. Too emotional. Too small-minded. At first, I thought she was stressed. Then I blamed myself. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I stopped taking her out enough. Maybe I wasn't exciting anymore. So I tried harder. I bought flowers. I planned dinners. I stayed awake at night asking if she was happy. Most nights, she barely looked at me. 3 months later, I came home early from work carrying takeout from her favorite restaurant. The house was quiet. Vanessa? I called. No answer. I walked into the dining room and froze. Divorce papers sat on the table. At first, I honestly thought it was some kind of mistake. I picked them up with shaking hands. Petitioner seeks full residential ownership pending financial review. My chest tightened painfully. No, I whispered. The front door opened behind me. Vanessa walked inside wearing sunglasses and carrying shopping bags. When she saw the papers in my hands, she didn't even look guilty. You were supposed to get those tomorrow, she said calmly. I stared at her. You filed for divorce? Yes. Why? She removed her sunglasses slowly. Because I can't live like this anymore. Like what? Small. I laughed weakly because I thought she had to be joking. Vanessa, we're doing fine. That's your problem. Fine is enough for you. I stepped closer. 10 years together, and this is how you do it? Papers on a table? What did you expect? Crying? I expected honesty. You want honesty? She asked coldly. You stopped being the man I needed years ago. The words knocked the air out of me. I gave you everything I had. That was the problem, she replied. Everything you had still wasn't enough. I noticed a text message flash across her phone screen. Can't wait to see you tonight. Marcus. My stomach dropped. Who's Marcus? Vanessa hesitated for half a second. That half second told me everything. Answer me. He understands ambition, she said finally. I felt sick. You're cheating on me? It just happened. Nothing just happens. She crossed her arms. You want the truth? Marcus showed me what my life could look like. I could barely breathe. So that's it? You throw me away because some rich guy bought you expensive dinners? At least he wants more out of life. I looked around the house, suddenly feeling like a stranger inside it. This house belonged to my father. And soon it'll belong to me. Her words stayed inside my head for days. Then came court. I barely slept the night before. My lawyer warned me things could get ugly, but I still believed Vanessa would show some humanity once we stood in front of a judge. I was wrong. She arrived wearing an expensive white suit beside Marcus Hale. The man looked like he stepped out of a magazine advertisement. Perfect haircut. Gold watch. Fake smile. Marcus shook my hand like we were business partners. Tough situation, he said smoothly. I pulled my hand away immediately. Vanessa didn't even look nervous. Inside the courtroom, she spoke about me like I was dead weight tied to her future. Daniel lacks financial ambition, she told the judge. I carried this marriage emotionally and financially. I almost laughed hearing that lie. I worked 6 days a week. I paid the mortgage. I buried my father alone while she stayed home because funerals made her uncomfortable. But none of that mattered anymore. The judge reviewed our finances quietly before speaking. Temporary residential control will remain with Mrs. Carter pending final review. Everything inside me went cold. Vanessa smiled instantly. Marcus leaned back looking satisfied. I sat there numb while my lawyer whispered something about appeals, but I barely heard him. The hearing ended 20 minutes later. 20 minutes destroyed 10 years of my life. I walked out carrying a box of documents that suddenly felt heavier than bricks. Then I heard laughter behind me. Vanessa's laughter. Marcus said, "See? I told you it would be easy." She laughed again. He never fights for anything. I stopped walking. For one stupid second, I hoped she would call my name. She didn't. I turned slightly and saw Marcus place his hand on her back while reporters moved around them. Vanessa looked happier standing beside him than she ever looked standing beside me. That was the moment something inside me finally broke. Not because I lost the house. Not because she betrayed me. But because I realized the woman I loved never respected me at all. I stood outside the courthouse for almost an hour after they left. Cars passed by. People walked around me. Nobody noticed the man whose entire life had just collapsed in a single afternoon. My phone buzzed suddenly. It was a message from Vanessa. Please collect the rest of your things this weekend. That was it. 10 years together reduced to one cold sentence. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I looked up at the gray sky above me and whispered words I never thought I would say out loud. I don't know who you are anymore. Rain hammered the windows while I stood inside my bedroom folding clothes into a cardboard box. Downstairs, music shook the walls. Vanessa's party had already started. Every laugh drifting upstairs felt like another knife sliding deeper into my chest. I opened my dresser slowly and picked up my father's old silver watch. The glass was cracked near the corner because he dropped it once while teaching me how to fix a broken sink. Real men repair things instead of replacing them, he used to say. I stared at the watch for several seconds before placing it carefully into the box. Downstairs, someone shouted, "Turn it up." More laughter exploded through the house. My house. At least, it used to be. I closed the box and carried it toward the hallway. As I reached the stairs, I froze. The entire living room looked different. Vanessa had changed the furniture arrangement already. Bottles covered the kitchen counter. Strangers stood around drinking and talking like the place belonged to them. Like I was the guest. Marcus leaned against the fireplace holding a glass of whiskey while Vanessa laughed beside him. For a second, nobody noticed me. Then Vanessa turned. "Oh," she said casually. "You're still here." Still here. 10 years together, and that was all I had become. "I'm packing," I replied quietly. Marcus smirked. "Take your time, man. No rush." The fake politeness in his voice made my stomach burn. I carried another box toward the front door, hoping they'd ignore me. No chance. Vanessa followed me into the hallway. "You're seriously taking those old records?" she asked. "They were my father's. They're dusty junk." I looked at her carefully. "You used to love listening to them with me." That was before I realized nostalgia doesn't pay bills. I shook my head slowly. "When did you become this person?" She crossed her arms. "When I got tired of waiting for my life to start." "Our life already started." "No, Daniel," she snapped. "Your life was standing still." I laughed bitterly. "So cheating was your solution?" "Marcus didn't force me into anything." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "At least he knows how to win." Those words hit harder than she probably intended. Before I could answer, Marcus walked over holding 2 drinks. "Everything okay here?" he asked. Vanessa smiled immediately. "Fine." Marcus looked at me. "You know, Daniel, this doesn't have to be ugly." I stared at him. "You're sleeping with my wife inside my father's house." "Ex-wife," Vanessa corrected. Marcus took a sip from his glass. "You need to accept reality." "And what reality is that?" "That some people move forward while others stay stuck." I stepped closer before I could stop myself. "You don't know a damn thing about my life." Marcus didn't even flinch. "That's the difference between us," he said calmly. "You lead with emotions. I lead with results." I wanted to punch him. God, I wanted to. Instead, I tightened my grip on the box until my fingers hurt. Vanessa looked at me with disappointment, almost embarrassment. "You lost because you were weak," she said flatly. The hallway suddenly felt too small to breathe in. Weak. After every overtime shift. After every sacrifice. After every night I stayed awake worrying about us while she texted another man behind my back. Weak. I looked at her for a long moment, waiting for some sign that she regretted saying it. Nothing. Marcus wrapped an arm around her waist like he already owned the future. Maybe he did. I grabbed my car keys from the table. Vanessa spoke again before I reached the door. "Make sure you return the garage opener." I barely slept after meeting Eleanor Grayson the night before. Her words stayed trapped inside my head like a storm I couldn't escape. "You were never supposed to see those documents unless you lost everything." I kept replaying that sentence while driving through downtown the next morning. Part of me wanted to ignore her completely. Another part of me needed answers more than air. Her office sat above an old bookstore between a dentist and a pawn shop. The faded sign on the door read Grayson Legal Services. Nothing about the place looked important. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt my chest tighten. The office smelled like old paper and coffee. Shelves packed with thick legal books covered the walls. Eleanor sat behind a wooden desk wearing glasses and a dark green sweater. She looked up calmly. "You came." I almost didn't. I figured. I sat across from her slowly. "Start talking." Instead of answering, she opened a drawer and pulled out 3 sealed envelopes tied together with string. My stomach twisted immediately. I recognized my father's handwriting. "Those are from him?" I asked quietly. Eleanor nodded. "Richard wrote them during the final months of his illness." I stared at the envelopes without touching them. "Why didn't he give them to me himself?" "Because he knew you wouldn't understand yet." "That doesn't answer anything." "He wanted you to see them only if your marriage collapsed and you lost control of the house." My throat felt dry. He expected this? He feared it. I looked down at the letters again. My father had been dead for 5 years. Suddenly, it felt like he was sitting in the room with me. Eleanor pushed the first envelope toward me gently. "Read it." My fingers shook while opening it. "Daniel. If you're reading this, then life hurt you the same way it once hurt me." I stopped breathing for a second. The words felt too personal. Too direct. I kept reading. "You always believed love could fix people. That was your greatest strength and your greatest weakness." I smiled bitterly. That sounded exactly like him. "When your mother betrayed me, I ignored the truth for years because I wanted our family to survive. I kept forgiving things that should never have been forgiven." My chest tightened painfully. I looked up at Eleanor. "My mother cheated on him?" She stayed quiet for a moment before answering. "Yes." I leaned back slowly. "My father never told me that." "Not once." "She left when you were young," Eleanor continued softly. "But your father protected you from the details." I looked back down at the letter. "Never let love blind you completely, son. People reveal themselves through patterns, not promises." The room suddenly felt smaller. Every argument with Vanessa replayed inside my head. Every insult. Every cold look. Every moment I defended her even when she hurt me. I swallowed hard and continued reading. "A good man should love deeply, but he should never abandon his self-respect just to keep someone beside him." Tears burned my eyes instantly. I hated how badly I needed to hear those words. I folded the letter C. I started watching Marcus Hale 3 days after meeting Eleanor. Not openly. I wasn't stupid enough to follow him around in a trench coat like some movie detective. I checked public business records, old interviews, company websites, and legal filings Eleanor helped me access. The deeper I looked, the uglier things became. Marcus wasn't rich because he was smart. Marcus was rich because he knew how to lie better than everyone else. "You see this?" Eleanor asked one afternoon inside her office. She slid a stack of papers toward me. I frowned. 3 bankrupt companies? 4, she corrected calmly. 1 was hidden under a partner's name. I stared at the documents. Vanessa thinks this man is some kind of genius. People like Marcus survive by selling fantasies. I leaned back heavily in my chair. "So he targeted her?" Eleanor adjusted her glasses. "I think he targeted your house." The words made my stomach tighten. I looked down at another file. "He owes millions. And yet he keeps opening new developments," Eleanor said. "That usually means borrowed money. Or stolen money." She gave me a small nod. "Exactly." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain tapped softly against the office windows while I flipped through more papers. Failed projects. Unpaid contractors. Fraud accusations that somehow disappeared. Marcus looked successful on television, but underneath the expensive suits, his entire empire was cracking apart. And Vanessa walked directly into it. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied. Instead, I just felt tired. She really believed him, I muttered. Eleanor watched me carefully. You still care about her. I wish I didn't. That's normal. I laughed bitterly. Nothing about this feels normal anymore. That night, I sat inside my car across from the house that used to feel like home. Lights glowed through the windows. Music played softly inside. Marcus' black Mercedes sat in the driveway beside Vanessa's SUV. I told myself I only came to observe. That was a lie. I came because some broken part of me still hoped she would walk outside looking regretful. Instead, I saw her laughing through the living room window while Marcus poured wine into a glass. My chest hurt instantly. Marcus touched her waist possessively. She didn't pull away. I looked down quickly, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Then my phone buzzed. Lily. I stared at her name in surprise. My younger sister and I barely spoke during the last 2 years of my marriage. Vanessa always found ways to create tension between us. She treats me like garbage, Lily once told me during an argument. You're exaggerating, I replied back then. I hated remembering that conversation now. I answered the call carefully. Hey. You sound awful, Lily said immediately. I forced a weak laugh. Nice to hear your voice too. I'm serious, Daniel. I've had a rough month. I heard about the divorce. I stayed quiet. Then Lily sighed softly. I should have called sooner. It's okay. No, it's not. Her voice became firmer. Vanessa pushed everyone away from you, and I let it happen because I got tired of fighting. Hearing someone finally say it out loud almost broke me. I thought I was protecting my marriage, I admitted quietly. And who protected you? I had no answer. Lily spoke again. Come see me tomorrow. I'm busy. That wasn't a request. Despite everything, I smiled slightly. Fine, I said. The next afternoon, I drove to Lily's apartment across town. The second she opened the door, she wrapped her arms around me. You look exhausted, she whispered. I feel worse. She pulled back and studied my face carefully. She really destroyed you, huh? I tried joking. Thanks for the encouragement. I'm serious. I know. Lily handed me coffee before sitting across from me at the kitchen table. So, she asked carefully, what's your plan? I don't have one. That's not true. I hesitated. Then I finally told her everything. The hidden estate documents. Marcus' debts. Eleanor's investigation. By the time I finished talking, Lily looked stunned. Wait, she said slowly. Marcus tried convincing Vanessa to sell Dad's house immediately? Yeah. Her expression darkened. That's suspicious. It gets worse. Rain was hitting my window so hard that night, it sounded like someone was trying to break in. I was sitting in the dark with my phone in my hand, staring at Marcus Hale's last message again and again. Stop digging before people get hurt. That line didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a threat from someone who was already losing control. I put the phone down and rubbed my face. You've gone too far, I whispered to myself. A knock came at the door. At first, I ignored it. Another knock. Harder this time. I stood slowly. Who is it? No answer. Just breathing outside. I opened the door slightly, and froze. Vanessa stood there. Soaked completely. Hair stuck to her face. Makeup running down her cheeks like black tears. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't even hold her purse properly. For a moment, I honestly thought I was dreaming. Then she spoke. Daniel. Her voice broke on my name. I didn't move. What are you doing here? She swallowed hard. I didn't know where else to go. I stared at her in silence. She looked nothing like the woman who smiled in court. Nothing like the woman who laughed outside the courthouse. This version of her looked lost. Marcus is gone, she said quickly. I mean, he's not answering me. His phone is off. The office is empty. I kept my voice cold. And that's my problem because? Her eyes filled instantly. Because I made a mistake. I almost laughed, but it came out as air instead. You made a mistake? I repeated. She nodded fast. I didn't know, Daniel. I swear I didn't know what he was doing with the house. I stepped back slightly, letting her in only because the rain was getting worse. She walked inside like she didn't belong anywhere anymore. I used my access, she said quickly. He said it was just paperwork. Just temporary approvals. I thought it was normal. I closed the door slowly. You helped him process something involving my father's house. Her head dropped immediately. I didn't know it was illegal. I stared at her. Even now, she was still trying to soften the truth. You didn't know, I repeated flatly. She shook her head violently. He said we were restructuring ownership for investment. He said it would benefit both of us. Both of you, I said quietly. Her voice cracked. I thought I was building a future. Silence filled the room. Only the rain outside kept talking. I walked past her into the kitchen and leaned against the counter. You destroyed my life for a future with him, I said. Her breath hitched. I know. That was the first honest thing she said. I looked at her carefully. Why are you here, Vanessa? She hesitated. Then she whispered, because I think he's running. My body went still. I turned slowly. Explain. She stepped closer, hands shaking again. He's been transferring money. Not just from companies. From accounts tied to properties. Fake names. Fake partners. I narrowed my eyes. How do you know that? I saw documents, she said quickly. Last week. He left them open on his laptop. So you finally started paying attention, I muttered. She flinched like I slapped her. I didn't understand what I was looking at first, she said. But then I saw my name connected to loans. Huge loans. I frowned. Loans on what? Her voice dropped. Your house. The air in the room changed instantly. I stared at her. Say that again. She looked terrified now. He used my signature access to secure funding. He said it was temporary collateral for development planning. I laughed once, sharp and empty. My father's house, I said slowly. He turned it into a bank. Vanessa shook her head. I didn't know it was like that. I swear I didn't. I stepped closer. You always say that. Her eyes filled again. Daniel, please, this is bigger than me now. I stopped. That line hit differently. She wasn't wrong. She wiped her face quickly. He's disappearing. I heard him on the phone. Offshore accounts. Another country. He said everything would be cleaned before the weekend. My jaw tightened. And you're telling me this now? I didn't know who else to go to. I gave a cold laugh. So you came back to the man you called weak? She lowered her head. I was wrong. Those two words hung in the air longer than anything else she had ever said to me. I looked at her carefully. For the first time, she didn't look proud. She didn't look arrogant. She looked scared. And honestly, that scared me more. Because fear makes people honest. And honesty makes things complicated. I should have listened to you, she whispered. Back then. I thought Marcus was the better. Stronger. I thought you were holding me back. I turned away. Because if I looked at her too long, I might remember things I didn't want to remember. Like her laughing in court. Like her calling me weak. Like her choosing him without hesitation. You don't get to rewrite history now, I said quietly. I'm not trying to, she replied quickly. I'm trying to fix it. I turned back sharply. Fix it? She nodded desperately. We can expose him. Together. I stared at her. That word again. Together. The same word she once used before leaving me. I laughed bitterly. You mean like how we were together when you signed divorce papers without even looking at me? Her face dropped instantly. That's not fair, she whispered. I stepped closer. Fair? You want to talk about fair? She didn't answer. My voice lowered. I buried my father alone. I paid for this house alone. I stood in court while you laughed beside him. Her lips trembled. I know. You don't know anything, I snapped. Silence again. The rain outside got louder. Then she whispered something I didn't expect. I didn't sleep that night. Vanessa stayed in my living room on the couch, wrapped in a blanket like she was afraid the walls would judge her. I stayed in my room staring at the ceiling, replaying every word she said. Marcus is running. My father's house is being used as leverage. And Vanessa, for the first time, she sounded human instead of untouchable. When morning came, I made my decision. Not for her. Not for revenge. For my father. I called Eleanor first. She picked up immediately. I was expecting this call. I'm doing it, I said. A pause. Helping her? No, I corrected. Exposing him. Another pause, then a softer tone. Good. Come to the office. Next I called Lily. Her voice was sharp. It's early. What happened? I need your help. That alone made her go quiet. Okay, she said instantly. Tell me where. Eleanor's office felt different that day. More serious. Like the air knew something big was coming. Lily was already there when I arrived, arms crossed, watching me carefully. So, she said, you finally stopped drowning and started fighting. I gave a small nod. Something like that. Eleanor placed a thick file on the table. Marcus Hale has been moving faster, she said. We confirmed offshore transfers. I tightened my jaw. So Vanessa was right. She was, Eleanor replied. Unfortunately. Lily leaned forward. How fast are we talking? Days, Eleanor said. Maybe less. That word hit hard. Days. We were running out of time. I looked at the file. Then we don't wait. Eleanor nodded once. We involve federal investigators. I felt my chest tighten slightly. And Vanessa? Eleanor didn't hesitate. She becomes a witness. Silence filled the room. Lily looked at me. She ready for that? I almost laughed. No. Eleanor's voice stayed calm. Very few people are ready to admit they helped destroy something. That sentence stayed in the room longer than anything else. That afternoon, I met Vanessa again. She looked worse than before. Not physically, but emotionally stripped. Like every layer of confidence had peeled away. I spoke to Eleanor, I said. Her hands trembled slightly. And? We move forward. She nodded slowly. So I testify. Yes. She closed her eyes for a second. Everyone is going to know. They already suspect, I replied. This just makes it official. Her voice cracked. I'll lose everything. I looked at her carefully. You already did. That shut her down instantly. She swallowed hard. Marcus will destroy me for this. He won't get the chance. She looked at me sharply. You don't know him like I do. I stepped closer. I know enough. She went silent. Then she whispered, I didn't think it would go this far. I nodded slowly. That's the story everyone tells right before consequences arrive. The news broke before I even finished my coffee. Real estate developer Marcus Hale arrested in federal fraud case. I stared at the headline on my phone without blinking. Then another notification came. Then another. His face was everywhere. News channels. Websites. Social media. The same man who once smiled beside Vanessa in court was now being led away in handcuffs. Fraud. Money laundering. Property scams. It felt unreal, like watching someone else's life collapse on repeat. Lily called me immediately. You saw it, she asked. Yeah, I said quietly. There was a pause. How do you feel? I looked out the window. Nothing, and everything at the same time. She understood that answer. Eleanor called next. It's over for him legally, she said calmly. But the investigation is expanding. Vanessa's cooperation helped reduce her liability. So she won't go to prison. No, Eleanor replied. But she'll carry this publicly. That part one already knew. The internet had already decided her fate. Comments. Posts. Articles. Gold digger exposed. Homewrecker involved in fraud case. Wife tied to arrested developer. I turned my phone off. Because I didn't want to read any more of it. 3 days later, I went back to the house. I stood outside for a long time before entering. The same house. My father's house. The place where everything started and ended. When I finally opened the door, the silence hit me first. No music. No voices. No arguments. Just air. I stepped inside slowly. The living room looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had just grown out of the version of myself who used to suffer inside it. I walked through the hallway. Every room felt like a memory that had stopped hurting. Not because I forgot. But because it no longer controlled me. I stopped in the kitchen. This was where Vanessa once told me I was too small for her future. I exhaled slowly. Funny, I whispered to myself. I thought that broke me. It didn't. It just woke me up. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt quiet in a different way. Not the kind of quiet that reminds you what you lost. The kind that finally lets you breathe. Still, I carried scars I couldn't explain to anyone. Some mornings I woke up and expected Vanessa's voice in the kitchen. Some nights I still checked my phone out of habit, waiting for problems that no longer existed. But the worst part was the silence where pain used to be. Because pain at least felt familiar. Now I had nothing to fight. And I didn't know what to do with that. Stop staring at the wall like it's going to answer you, Lily said one evening as she walked into my house without knocking. I glanced at her from the couch. It might. She dropped a grocery bag on the counter. It won't. I sighed. You're very supportive. I'm realistic, she replied. She looked around the living room. You've been sitting here like this for days. I've been thinking. About what? I hesitated. Everything. Lily crossed her arms. That's not thinking. That's drowning with extra steps. I let out a small laugh despite myself. She softened slightly. You don't have to stay stuck here, you know. I'm not stuck. Then do something, she said simply. That stayed with me longer than I expected. The next morning, I started renovating the house. Not because it needed fixing, but because I did. I painted the hallway first. Then I replaced the broken cabinet in the kitchen. Then I removed the old curtains Vanessa once picked out. Every change felt like pulling pieces of the past out of the walls. Some of it hurt. Some of it didn't. But all of it moved me forward. Lily came by every few days. You're actually doing it, she said once, watching me sand down an old wooden shelf. Doing what? Rebuilding yourself. I paused. I'm just fixing the house. She smirked. Sure. I didn't argue. Because maybe she was right. A week later, Lily dragged me somewhere I didn't want to go. A youth workshop? I asked as we stood outside a small community center. Yes, she said. I don't teach kids. You do now. That's not how teaching works. She pushed me lightly toward the door. It is today. Inside, I met Noah Bennett. He was nothing like I expected. Calm voice. Simple clothes. No pressure in his eyes. Just patience. You must be Daniel, he said, shaking my hand. And you must be the reason I'm here against my will, I replied. He smiled slightly. Probably. Lily rolled her eyes behind me. Noah gestured to a group of teenagers sitting in a circle. They've been through a lot. Broken families, trust issues, anger problems. I looked at them. Sounds familiar. Noah noticed that immediately. That's why Lily called you. I turned to her. You told him? She shrugged. I told him enough. Noah spoke gently. You don't need to fix anyone. Just talk. I hesitated. I'm not good at this. Neither are they, he replied. That's why they're here. That made me pause. So I sat down. Months passed in a way I didn't notice at first. Not because nothing changed, but because I stopped measuring my life by pain. The house was fully restored now. Fresh paint on the walls. Repaired wood floors. Clean windows that finally let sunlight in without feeling heavy. And me. I was different too. Not healed in a perfect way. But steady. Like a man learning how to stand without shaking. Lily still visited often. You're quieter now, she said once, sitting at my kitchen table. I used to be loud? You used to be lost, she corrected. I didn't argue. Noah still ran the workshop, and I still went there twice a week. Some of the kids started calling me sir instead of that guy. Which felt strange. But good. Eleanor checked in occasionally too, mostly legal updates that no longer controlled my life. Marcus was gone from headlines now. Vanessa too. At least from the public eye. That's what I told myself. Until the day I saw her again. It was a normal afternoon. I went to a small grocery store near the old neighborhood because I needed basic supplies, bread, milk, a few things Lily insisted I stop ignoring. I was standing in the aisle when I saw her. At first, I didn't recognize her. That alone shocked me. Because Vanessa used to be impossible to miss. But this version. She stood near the shelves holding a small basket, wearing simple clothes. No designer brands. No perfect hair. No sharp confidence in her posture. Just quiet exhaustion. Like life had finally stopped adjusting itself around her expectations. Our eyes met. And she froze. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she slowly looked away, like she wasn't sure she had the right to look at me anymore. I almost walked past her. Almost. But something stopped me. Not anger. Not curiosity. Just closure waiting to happen. Vanessa, I said calmly. She turned back slowly. Daniel, she replied. Her voice was softer now. Less sharp. Less certain. We stood there in silence for a moment too long. Then I spoke again. You look different. She gave a small, tired smile. So do you. I nodded once. Yeah. Another silence. Then she said, I didn't think I'd ever run into you here. I don't think either of us expected this version of our lives, I replied. That made her look down. True, she whispered. We stepped outside together without planning it. The air was warm. The parking lot was mostly empty. For a moment, it felt like we were two strangers who just happened to share history. Then she broke first. I heard about the house, she said quietly. It's mine again, I replied. She nodded slowly. I figured. No bitterness in her tone. Just acceptance. Then she added, almost barely audible, I'm glad. That surprised me. I studied her carefully. You are? She let out a small breath. I don't deserve to be, but, yeah. We stood near my car. A long silence stretched between us. Then she spoke again. I thought I won that day, she said. I didn't respond. She continued anyway.